Hi, were you looking around the internet for something interesting to watch? Well, you found us, so you got lucky. And we are going to talk about a really interesting story that comes from Northern Ireland. And Jonathan's going to take us there. So, Jonathan, take us to Ireland.
Northern Ireland schools are not immune to the culture wars. Christian versus secular education is starting to clash a little bit. Mainly issues like abortion and gender identity in their relationship and sexuality education. Which is a course, I guess, they have. These are causing a lot of pearl clutching on the evangelical side. The representative of the Evangelical Alliance of Northern Ireland, Mr. Smyth, was discussing in the article that it seems the school system is teaching inappropriate sexual information that includes, quote unquote, dangerous practices. He insists that does not want to start a culture war and wants to find common ground. He also pointed out that some RSE materials also contain scientifically inaccurate content, which confuses and conflates biological sex with gender identity, whatever that means. The idea that coming out is a thing Christians do is notably a false narrative, a blatant attempt at co-optation of the coming out process and claiming victimhood, essentially. They are not discriminated against. You can't be discriminated against if you're in the majority. So they do not come out as definitely, even if one's admitting religion was similar to coming out LGBTQ+, it would be overshadowed by the difference that a severely oppressed group versus a majority socially accepted group. This is not a reasonable position. There is no comparison. The comparison is ridiculous and even comical if it were not an obvious, devious, and obvious ploy. So this article is by Angra Kumar, Christian Post, Monday, November 11th, 2024.
Let's go to Cindy first. What was your main thought or takeaway from Smith's testimony?
Yeah, I just had one thought about this idea. Maybe it has to do with the fact that one of the two groups oppresses all kind of minorities over the world, rapes children and then covers it, tries to suppress any dissenting voice, whether it's scientifically or politically, and does whatever it can to keep the AIDS epidemic alive in Africa, while the other one is just some people trying to be accepted as they are. Maybe this has something to do with the reason why one is more accepted than the other. Please, Christian, please, I beg you, please stop with the fake victimization, please. We're not idiots anymore. We know the reality. The article ends with this question: is it secular blasphemy to believe that a man cannot biologically become a woman? So no, it's not. Actually, it's not secular blasphemy, because blasphemy is a totally made-up concept. It is, however, transphobic to insinuate that trans women are not women. Gender identity is not such a complex topic that it can be explained even to children. It just requires deconstructing a lot of false idea propagated by Christianity, though.
I was trying to find what exactly were the real problems that Smith had with these guidelines, these new guidelines. And I actually could not find any better story than the one we had that had more details. I was able to find an article that he actually authored outlining the dangers of these new guidelines. And one of them was that this new regulation, I'm going to read it out to you because it's amazing. That the new program will make age-appropriate, comprehensive, and scientifically accurate education on sexual and reproductive health and rights, covering prevention of early pregnancy and access to abortion, a compulsory component of the curriculum for adolescents. Now, the Education Secretary has indicated that this should be done in a factual way that does not advocate nor oppose a particular view on the moral and ethical considerations of abortion or contraception. I mean, wow, how horrible is that? What kind of stand is that to take? Is that what the church is really opposing? Then who's in the wrong here? I found this story shocking. What did you find shocking about it?
Yeah, I found this story shocking, but in a good way, okay, in one of the aspects, because it seems like Ireland is doing such a good job at keeping things secular, keeping religion and religious groups.
I gotta point out, and I made a mistake earlier today about calling Northern Ireland Ireland. Northern Ireland is Great Britain. It's not Ireland. I wanted to say that to all my Irish friends because they will take that to heart. So,
yeah, I should probably make that correction as well. Yeah, so it seems that, Northern Ireland is doing such a good job at keeping religion and religious groups out of public spaces that this has prompted Mr. Smyth from the Evangelical Alliance to publicly share the displeasure with the fact that kids are having an easier time expressing their sexuality and coming out as LGBTQ than they are expressing their Christian faith. And if I'm being honest, the day that this happens in America will be a day to celebrate. It's the complete opposite issue of what we are seeing in the United States. And maybe the U.S. needs to take a look at whatever Northern Ireland is doing, because whatever it is, they're doing the right thing by keeping science education in school and religious doctrines at home.
I agree. I think the government, the British government itself is doing a great job. I would expect some kind of like religious kickback from people in Ireland. I know it's gotten to become more secular in the last couple of decades, but Ireland has traditionally been a very conservative religious country. John, did you get the idea that Smyth was trying to push his religious views onto the school system and make the school system teach that stuff?
What I kind of got the sense that common ground means their way or the highway. In other words, when the school doesn't need to change anything, they're doing it right now. What they want is, they say that they're being not discriminated against, but they're being pushed out of the curriculum little by little. And they want to have a space for them to make sure that their views and their beliefs are maintained for not just their students, but, everybody. So what they don't put together in their heads is that is putting religion in the schools, which is not a good idea. Their space needs to be eliminated, not created. And so this is just another way of phrasing things in such a way that don't seem harmful to everybody. We're just trying to create our space so that we can have our beliefs and treat everybody equally, blah, blah, blah. It's not equality. It is trying to push your beliefs onto children. This happens in the United States all the time. They always word it in such a way that everybody is like, well, that can't be so bad, until you start picking it apart and saying, yeah, it's bad. They're going with we're so oppressed. We're making our children learn the truth about sex. Oh my God, pearl clutching again. And teaching what is scientifically wrong, conflating biological sex and gender. Actually, no, they're probably teaching that gender is fluid and biological sex has more than two sexes, which is just a fact. So it's like, I get really kind of inflamed at the fact that people can deceive, half-truth, and outright lie about things to try and get their way and try and get their ideology or their thing thrown into a school. Now, I'm all for teaching the ideology and whatnot of Christianity in the appropriate class, comparative religion. If there is another philosophical point that might be in a philosophy class or a theology class, that's fine. That's where it belongs. It does not belong in a generalized curriculum for all students. That is a little bit over the line. So that's all I have for that.
Well, that was quite a bit. I hope that's not all you have, because I'm going to call on you again in a few minutes. So I want to talk to Cindy, but before I do, I want to ask AJ one more question, because Cindy, I kind of want you to wrap this up, because there was something in the last part of the story that got to me, and I think it got to you as well. So I don't want to jump to the end of the story yet. But AJ, do you think the abortion question was the main catalyst for Smyth's testimony? It seemed, like the headline was about Christian kids being more or harder for them to come out than gay kids. But I think that the abortion question was really what made him go testify. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think that one of the main things that may have set off Mr. Smyth is the fact that the former Northern Ireland Secretary, Chris Heaton Harris, had passed some new regulations in 2023 that would make it mandatory for all post-primary schools in Northern Ireland to teach about access to abortion and prevention of early pregnancy. And, this was set to start at the next school year. So I think he was in a rush. He expressed concerns that the Christian perspective is becoming more and more excluded in school environments. He was quoted saying that there are some specific areas where the views of evangelical Christians and many Catholics and Muslims are very distinctive. For example, abortion. But since when are evangelical Christians concerned about Muslims? I don't know about that. That's a new one. But he claims that he wanted to make sure that the education about sensitive issues like abortion or sexual identity did not subject students to what he calls ideological pressures. And this was really ironic, because that's the definition of religious indoctrination, ideological pressure.
Yeah, that is it. You know what? I am going to come back to Cindy, and we'll get back to you again the third time. What do you think was, I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked AJ. What do you think was, I'm going to call him Smyth, because in England they would call him Smyth. What do you think was Smyth's main motivation for testifying?
I don't know. I'm not in his head, but what I notice is that this culture war, also it's called, that's brewing in the US, it is spreading. And in this, what the far right has been very effective at is to regroup all those issues: abortion, gay rights, trans rights, even healthcare sometimes. And all that is lumped into the far left ideology. Like, it's the same thing when someone in Congress a law to prevent one trans woman who has been elected in Congress to use women's bathroom, one woman, and they are going to try to pass a law to prevent her. It's just, when we tend to say that trying to deconvert Christians is hard because sometimes you hit a wall and anything you say, they just push it back. It seems to be the same psychological and intellectual mechanism here. If you start talking about abortion, then they fight back for every other topics in this woke agenda, as they call it. So I don't know how we can fight this other than education. The problem is how do you educate people on the definition of gender identity, for example. You can only do it in a secular environment, but even then you're going to have people like him complaining that it's grooming the kids or something like that. So yeah, it's a little bit despairing, discouraging, but yeah, we're doing what we can here on the Non-Prophets. We're trying to explain things, and so that's what we do.
Yeah, I think you're right though about like American trans bigotry spreading. It seems almost like we're exporting a lot of hate from this country, and it's pretty sad. And another commentary on what you said, Nancy Mace, who's the representative who put in the the bill to stop the Sarah McBride, the trans woman, from using the same bathroom. This may end up backfiring on her. I saw this happen in another place, in a workplace, and they just created a third bathroom, and the trans person ended up with their own private bathroom. So that'd be awesome if Sarah McBride ended up with her own private bathroom. That'd be great. So, Jonathan, though, let's get back to you. What did you think Smyth is really trying to protect children from? You mentioned the truth earlier. Do you think that's what it is, that he's just trying to keep people from the truth?
I think that what he's really trying to do is inject himself and his religion into the school. I think all of these things are dodges and created hysteria, so that he can get his religion as ingrained in something in the school, even if it's subtly. So this is just I think he's feeling out the situation and seeing, is this ever going to go anyplace? Can I push here? Am I going to get a lot of pushback? Or can I kind of like incrementally get in here and do something, And it's all in order to, it sounds a lot like we need to come together to protect the children from the truth, unfortunately. But that's what the problem is, because the secular side thinks, yes, protecting children is good, but they're saying they're protecting it from LGBTQ people and all this other stuff, which is not okay with secular people. So it's like using the words and leaving out the description is the way they deceive people into thinking, yeah, protecting the kids is a good thing. That's where in the United States we got to a lot of this bullshit, is because they kept using nice language and people got wrapped up in it. Then it was used to demonize the opposition. And that's where we rolled into this whole problem we got now. So they don't want common ground. They want the ground, period. So this is just their way of saying, yeah, we're going to keep trying to do this until you get bored at looking at it and let us in, don't do it. This whole thing about regarding the teaching of healthy relationships, for them, that's one man, one woman, cis, heteronormative relationships. All the rest of us are just taken and thrown out the window, baby with the bathwater, just throw us out. Consent and preventing violence against women and girls. That's the one thing Christianity is not very good at doing ever in the last 5,000 years.
He does seem to genuinely think that there are no morals unless you follow his strict religious views, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. He doesn't think that anybody else has the right way of thinking. So that's one of the things that they use this language, but their intentions are not to just be tolerant, they're of everybody, and then keep their positions in people's eyes so that they can get somebody following them. This is all about a very insidious kind of gradual takeover. We're going to pick away at it until we get something large done that allows us to slide in, and that's exactly how they do this. They start with these, let's save the children from this, let's do this, and then we want to ban this book. That's the next thing you see, and we want to make sure that there's don't say gay, so that the kids don't even know that gay people exist. They want them to learn all their sexuality from the streets, and that's not a good place to learn about sexual health or relationships.
No, that's not true, John. They want them to learn about it in the church.
No, but that's not where kids pick it up from.
Yeah, I understand, because that's not where I picked it up at. I'll tell you what. But yeah, I agree with you. But where they want them to pick it up at is in the church, right? Because that goes back to what I was saying before. Unless you have our strict religious morals, then you are just an immoral piece of scum, right? And I think we see that through almost all theologies. If you don't follow my idea of God, then you can't be a moral person. I've also often wondered why that idea came, and you don't see it in all religions. Hindus are a little bit more tolerant, but you definitely see it in Christianity and Islam, right?
Unless you're in India now.
She wants to say, I can see she's boiling over there.
No, I had a comment to make that Jonathan made about Smyth claiming that he wants to find common ground. And I'm wondering, is it really common ground that he's after? Or does he want the church doctrine to prevail against what he calls scientifically inaccurate? And, I imagine that he would be okay with banning any reference to biological sex and gender in order to erase the existence of trans people, just like what we're seeing here in the United States, right? And what would he consider a healthy relationship? My guess is abstinence, right? No sex before marriage, no contraception, since it's against his personal Catholic doctrine. Like, I don't think he wants common ground. I think he wants church in schools again.
Yeah, he's saying he's concerned about ensuring the teaching of sensitive issues, such as, this is almost a direct quote from him, such as abortion, differing sexual identities, allowing for space where students are not subjected to ideological pressures. And in what I see there is him saying that, hey, we don't want to be treated the same way we've been treating people for years.
Yeah, and his last plea, the group's views were being marginalized in school setting, and I say yes, and rightly so. Just say no to religion in schools. That's it.
Yeah, and you know what he would respond to that. I don't want school in religion.
Yeah, Cindy, that last part of the story, that last line there kind of got to both of us, I think, for the same reason. You want to share your ideas about secular blasphemy with us?
Yeah, I think it's just nonsense. Blasphemy is insult against God, and so there cannot be secular blasphemy. So by definition, it's worthless. But I get what he's trying to say here. It's to say that secularism is a doctrine, and therefore we have to accept it, and we are trying to force it on them, which is not true. Secularism is not a doctrine. It's just keep your church and your beliefs at home, and we, in this collective space that we're sharing, then everyone keeps their religion at home, and we do whatever we can to find a better way to live together. But the only way we can do that is so that everyone with their different religion and different beliefs and different way of lives keep that to themselves.
Awesome. And if you want some more secular blasphemy, you can get more of the nonprofits right here.